Super morning everyone. My name is Pooja from Delhi Public School. I will be taking class for Political Science class 12th. So in class 12th we are having two books and we are going to start here with book number 1, and the name of the book is Contemporary World Politics, and the word here contemporary means that parallel to our world. What has happened in the recent history of our world, and that is affecting our country. So in this book, in short, we are going to study the enlarge the scope of politics of the world stage and its effect on Indian politics. Let's start with chapter 1, the Cold War era. What is the Cold War? The situation of war being among two or more countries, and there is a possibility of war, but in real there will be no war. It happened between USA and USSR from 1945 to 1990. It is referred as Cold War. So basically USA and USSR were having some kind of tension between the period between the period 1945 to 1990, and the word here cold means that they were not having any kind of direct confrontation by any weapon to each other's country. Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuban Missile Crisis was the highest time danger between the period of Cold War, that is 1945 to 1990. So it the crisis started from the small country which is located near to USSR, but having a good relationship with USSR. Having a good relationship with USSR, that means it was having diplomatic and financial aid and followed the ideology of communism, which was the opposite ideology of capitalism. Capitalism was the ideology which was followed by America. So, because of this, in 1961, the leader of USSR was worried that United States of America would invade communist-ruled Cuba and overthrow its president, Fidel Castro. In 1961, this happened that he was worried that USSR leader was worried that US will invade Cuba because it was having opposite ideology and having a good relationship with USSR. So America will invade to this country and overthrow President Fidel Castro, he was the president of Cuba, a small country located near to USSR. In 1962, the leader of Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev, placed nuclear missile in Cuba for converting it into a Russian base. So, because of this, Soviet Union leader Nikita Khrushchev placed a nuclear missile in Cuba for protection of Cuba. Placed a nuclear missile in 1962, targeting USSR. After 3 weeks later, Americans became aware of it. After keeping missiles, Americans became aware of it that Nikita Khrushchev has kept in Cuba nuclear missile. So US President John F. Kennedy and his advisor tried to find a solution to avoid full-scale nuclear war, but they were determined to get Gorbachev to remove the missiles and nuclear weapon from Cuba. John F. Kennedy, the president of US, was able to remove nuclear missile and was able to avoid full-scale war from USSR. How it was able to avoid full-scale war? It was able to avoid full-scale war by John Kennedy ordered American warship to intercept any Soviet ships leading to Cuba as a way to warning USSR. Intercept means that USSR warship will not be allowed to enter Cuba. They will be covering Cuba country in three ways that no warships will enter Cuba. And this was the warning given to USSR to remove their missiles or nuclear weapons from Cuba. And this clash was known as Cuban Missile Crisis, and it made the whole world nervous. In simple words, we can say what was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuban Missile Crisis was a high point which came to be known as world which came to be known as Cold War. It referred to the competition, the tension, and a series of confrontations between the US and Soviet Union. Competition in the war, it created a competition between US and USSR in so many cases, in the military ways, in the space, in the financial, in the economic ways. And it created a tension. When we are having some kind of competition between two people or two community, it creates automatically tension between two community or two people or two country, and it creates so many confrontations between those country or two countries or two people, we can say that. Let's go to the background of Cold War. As we all know that First World War started from 1914 to 1918. Cold War II started from 1939 to 1945. Allied power, in the Second World War, the powers were divided into two groups, Allied and Axis power. Allied were France, Britain, USA and USSR. Axis, Germany, Japan and Italy. Second World War came to an end with the defeat of Axis power led by Germany, Italy and Japan, and Allied forces led by USA and Soviet Union, Britain and France. USA was not having any intention of joining Second World War because of Japan. It had to enter because Japan attacked in its famous ship, that is Pearl Harbor ship, and which was having around 400 American citizens, and because of that so many American citizens died. So USA had to enter in the Second World War. And USSR also joined Second World War because of Germany, because Germany wants USSR was constantly instigated by Germany, so it had to enter. When both these countries entered into Second World War, this was the beginning of Cold War. And the Second World War ended when the United States dropped two atomic bombs on Japanese cities, that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki, in August 1945, causing Japan to surrender because America has dropped its nuclear weapon in Japanese cities, that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because of that, Japan had to surrender. This decision of the US was criticized and supported, but the consequences of the end of Second World War was the rise of the two new powers on the global stage. The United States and Soviet Union became the greatest power in the world with the ability to influence events in anywhere on the earth. But the Cold War, in spite of beginning and intense from the rivalry between the great power, remained as cold, not hot shooting war. It was due to the logic of deterrence. The logic of deterrence means that the both sides having the capacity to respond against an attack and to cause so much destruction that neither can afford to instigate war. The two superpower and their allies were expected to behave as rational and responsible actor. So in this we have understood that when Second World War ended, it created two superpowers, that is two new powers that in the global stage, that is United States and Soviet Union, and both became the greatest power, and they were having the ability to influence any event on the earth. Now also, if you see that the US are having so much of ability to influence any event in our earth, and in spite of Cold War, it was so much intense. Both were having so much of competition between them. Then also they were not using any kind of weapon. They were not attacking each other. Or hot means here we are using what it never converted from cold to hot. That means they were attacking each other indirectly. They were not coming face to face to each other. That means hot war. They were not using any weapon or attacking each other weaponic way or using any armed way to attack it, because they were because of because logic of deterrence. This is very important. Logic of deterrence has been asked in your board exams many times. Logic of deterrence is a logic that means that the both side has a capacity. USA and USS are having so much of capacity to attack each other. They both are very much well developed. They both are having nuclear weapons. If they both will attack each other weaponically, it will damage their own country, and it will instigate it will create a very much huge destruction of the in this earth, which cannot be covered, or which cannot be solved by anyone. So these two powers had responsibility to behave rational. They have to use their rationality, logic, and responsible. They have to be responsible that because of them they should not cause any kind of damage to their own people, to any place of this earth. As we have seen that as we have seen that this emergence of two power block was created after Second World War. The two superpowers, that is USA and USSR, wanted to expand their sphere of influence in different parts of the world. Hence, they decided to take help of smaller states. Smaller states means the states which were not as powerful as USA and USSR. These smaller states got the promise of protection, weapon, economic aid against their local rivals, mostly regional neighbors. The first division took place in Europe. Most countries of Western Europe sided with the US and thus came to be known as Western Alliance. The countries of Eastern Europe joined the Soviet camp and came to be known as Eastern Alliance. The two blocks created their organization also. In this slide, we are going to study about their organizations. The Western Alliances formed itself into an organization, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that is NATO. It came into existence in April 1949 with 12 states. The NATO declared that armed attack on any one of them in Europe or North America would be regarded as an attack on all of them. In response to this, the Eastern Alliances also made an organization that is known as Warsaw, was led by Soviet Union. It was established in 1945. Its principal function was to encounter NATO forces in Europe. In East and Southeast Asia and in West Asia, the United States builds an alliance system called the Southeastern Eastern Treaty Organization and Central Treaty Organization. In short, we can say that the Western alliances, which was headed by America, USA, United States of America, Western alliances, which was having an organization that is called as NATO, SEATO, and CENTO. And USSR was having its alliance organization that is called as Warsaw. And in that they have made it clear that if any alliance country was attacked by any opposition country, it was considered as it was an attack in their own country. Many newly independent countries were worried of losing their freedom. Newly independence means there were so many countries which got their newly independent, like India also got at that time freedom. So they cracked and split within the alliances and were quick to appear. So it was very surprising to see that these countries were also very much active at this time in appearing to these alliances. The Communist China quarreled with the USSR towards the late 1950s. Another important development was the non-alignment movement. This is the very important contribution done by Indian state that we are going to study more about this topic. The smaller states, it was not like that the smaller countries were only taking things from a big superpower. The superpowers were also taking help from smaller countries, like they were able to take vital resources such as oil, minerals, and they also got location to spy on each other. Means USA was able to, because of these smaller countries, the USA was able to spy on USSR, and USSR was able to spy on USA, and to launch weapon if they want to attack US country, or if they want to attack each other, they will be able to launch a weapon in these smaller states. So that's it for today's video. We will continue by other our topics tomorrow's video. Thank you for watching this.